Listen, Kristalina Georgieva, your IMF just sent another delegation. IMF begs Africa to stop gold standard. Actually begging. President Traoré, please reconsider the gold standard. Please return to dollar transactions and maintain the current system. I looked at your representative, watched him sweat and squirm. Then I said 4 words that ended the conversation. Too late. Game over. Let me tell you exactly what happened. My finance minister walked into my office, threw a report on my desk. Mr. President, IMF is panicking. They're losing control of African monetary policy. I opened it, saw the numbers. 7 African nations officially adopted gold-backed currency, 12 more preparing legislation, 18 conducting feasibility studies, 57 total moving toward gold standard, continental monetary revolution, IMF's worst nightmare becoming reality. Not just talk anymore, action, real implementation, actual gold-backed currencies circulating, physical gold reserves backing national currencies, dollar dependency ending, IMF control collapsing. Your representative arrived next morning. Emergency meeting requested. Urgent discussion needed. Critical situation developing. I made him wait 3 hours. Let him understand his position, feel his powerlessness, and let him recognize his desperation. When I finally received him, he started immediately. President Traoré, we need to discuss this gold standard movement. IMF has serious concerns about monetary stability. We believe dollar-based system serves Africa better. We recommend maintaining current arrangements. I let him finish, watched him present his arguments, observed his desperation. Then I responded, your IMF begs Africa to stop gold standard because you're losing control. You're losing your monetary weapon. You're losing your economic leverage. You're losing your financial dominance. Too late. We've made our decision. Game over for your dollar hegemony. His face went white, started stammering. But President Traoré, gold standard creates volatility, limits monetary flexibility, restricts economic growth, causes financial instability. I leaned forward, looked him directly in the eyes. You mean it limits your control, restricts your manipulation, causes instability for your system? Let me show you why your IMF begs Africa to stop gold standard. I displayed the evidence. First screen showing African gold reserves. We hold 3,200 metric tons of gold collectively. 7 nations already backing currencies with physical gold. Burkina Faso, 47 tons backing new gold franc. Mali, 38 tons backing gold CFA. Niger, 29 tons backing gold naira. Chad, 31 tons backing gold dinar. Ghana, 165 tons backing gold cedi. Zimbabwe, 12 tons backing gold dollar. Tanzania, 22 tons backing gold shilling. Total, 344 tons already deployed. Real gold. Physical reserves. Actual backing. Not paper promises. Not digital fantasies. Not IMF guarantees. Real gold backing real currencies. Showing transaction volumes. Gold-backed currency transactions totaling $47 billion in 3 months. Burkina Faso, $8.2 billion. Mali, $6.7 billion. Niger, $4.9 billion. Chad, $5.1 billion. Ghana, $14.3 billion. Zimbabwe, $3.8 billion. Tanzania, $4 billion. Real transactions, actual trade, physical commerce, not theoretical models, not economic projections, not IMF predictions, real economic activity using gold-backed currencies. Dollar transactions in participating nations dropped 67% in 3 months. Burkina Faso, 73% decline. Mali, 69% decline. Niger, 64% decline. Chad, 61% decline. Ghana, 71% decline. Zimbabwe, 58% decline. Tanzania, 62% decline. Massive dollar rejection, systematic abandonment. Continental shift, your currency losing relevance, your system losing users, your control disappearing. Showing IMF loan dependency collapse. Nations with gold-backed currencies reduced IMF borrowing by 89% in 3 months. Burkina Faso, 0 new IMF loans. Mali, 0 new IMF loans. Niger, 0 new IMF loans. Chad, 0 new IMF loans. Ghana, $200 million versus $2.4 billion previous year. Zimbabwe, 0 new IMF loans. Tanzania, $150 million versus $1.8 billion previous year. Your lending power evaporating, your financial leverage disappearing, your economic control ending. Gold-backed currency nations set interest rates independently without IMF approval. Burkina Faso, 3.2% versus IMF recommended 8.5%. Mali, 2.9% versus IMF recommended 7.8%. Niger, 3.5% versus IMF recommended 8.2%. Chad, 3.8% versus IMF recommended 8.7%. Ghana, 4.1% versus IMF recommended 9.2%. Zimbabwe, 5.2% versus IMF recommended 11.5%. Tanzania, 3.7% versus IMF recommended 8.9%. Monetary sovereignty achieved, policy independence gained, IMF recommendations ignored. Your representative was staring at screens, seeing his institution's control collapsing, watching his organization's power disappearing, witnessing his system's dominance ending. This is why your IMF begs Africa to stop gold standard. You're losing everything: your monetary control, your financial leverage, your economic dominance, your institutional relevance. Everything built over 70 years. Everything established through Bretton Woods. Everything maintained through dollar hegemony, collapsing, ending, dying. He tried recovering. But President Traoré, gold standard failed historically. 1,930 seconds. Depression. Economic chaos. Financial collapse. History proves gold standard doesn't work. I smiled. History proves Western gold standard under Western control didn't work. We're not recreating your failed system. We're building African gold standard under African control. Completely different, entirely ours. I displayed the differences. Western gold standard 1,870 to 1,930. Fixed exchange rates imposed by dominant powers. Gold flows controlled by colonial metropoles. Monetary policy dictated by London and New York. African colonies excluded from decision-making. Resources extracted without compensation. Wealth transferred to Europe and America. System designed for Western benefit. African exploitation guaranteed. African gold standard 2025 forward. Flexible exchange rates determined by participating nations. Gold flows managed by African central banks. Monetary policy decided by African governments. All participating nations equal in decision-making. Resources controlled by producing countries. Wealth retained in Africa. System designed for African benefit. African prosperity guaranteed. Completely different systems. Totally different structures. Entirely different objectives. Your historical comparisons are worthless. Your economic models are irrelevant. Your predictions are meaningless. We're not repeating your mistakes. We're correcting them. Your representative tried another approach. President Traoré, this will isolate Africa economically. International trade will suffer. Foreign investment will decline. Economic growth will slow. I laughed. Actually laughed. Isolate us? We're the ones with gold. We're the ones with resources. We're the ones with commodities. World needs what we have. We don't need your dollars. We don't need your loans. We don't need your system. International trade is increasing with gold-backed currencies. Foreign investment is growing in gold standard nations. Economic growth is accelerating under monetary sovereignty. I showed him the evidence. Trade data screen. International trade by gold-backed currency nations increased 34% in 3 months. Burkina Faso exports, up 41%. Mali exports, up 38%. Niger exports, up 29%. Chad exports, up 27%. Ghana exports, up 43%. Zimbabwe exports, up 31%. Tanzania exports, up 36%. Trading partners accepting gold-backed currencies. International buyers preferring real value. Global commerce embracing sound money. Foreign investment screen. Foreign direct investment in gold standard nations increased 52% in 3 months. Burkina Faso FDI, $890 million versus $420 million previous quarter. Mali FDI, $670 million versus $310 million previous quarter. Niger FDI, $540 million versus $280 million previous quarter. Chad FDI, $480 million versus $230 million previous quarter. Ghana FDI, $2.1 billion versus $1.2 billion previous quarter. Zimbabwe FDI, $380 million versus $190 million previous quarter. Tanzania FDI, $710 million versus $380 million previous quarter. Investors preferring gold-backed currencies. Capital flowing to sound money. Investment choosing real value. Economic growth screen. GDP growth in gold standard nations accelerated significantly. Burkina Faso, 8.7% versus 4.2% previous year. Mali, 7.9% versus 3.8% previous year. Niger, 7.2% versus 3.5% previous year. Chad, 6.8% versus 3.1% previous year. Ghana, 9.4% versus 5.1% previous year. Zimbabwe, 6.3% versus 2.7% previous year. Tanzania, 8.1% versus 4.6% previous year. Monetary sovereignty driving growth. Gold standard enabling prosperity. Sound money creating wealth. Every prediction you made was wrong. Every warning you issued was false. Every threat you implied was empty. Trade increased. Investment grew. Growth accelerated. Your economic models failed. Your predictions collapsed. Your credibility died. Your representative was desperate now, grasping for arguments, searching for leverage. Finding nothing, President Traoré, IMF can provide technical assistance. We can offer expertise. We can support transition. I cut him off. Your IMF begs Africa to stop gold standard by offering help we don't need. Technical assistance? We hired our own experts, African economists, continental specialists, professionals who understand our needs. Expertise? We developed our own. Through African universities, through continental institutions, through national research. Support, we provide our own. Through alliance cooperation, through regional coordination, through collective action. We don't need IMF. We don't want IMF. We don't trust IMF. Then I revealed what really terrified him, what actually caused his emergency visit, what truly motivated IMF panic. 18 more nations preparing gold standard adoption, legislation drafted, central banks ready, gold reserves allocated, implementation planned for next 6 months, 18 more nations. That makes 54 total. All Africa, continental majority approaching, dollar dominance collapsing, IMF control ending. I displayed the list. Senegal, legislation passed, implementation May 2025, gold reserves, 36 tons allocated. Kenya, parliament approved, implementation June 2025, gold reserves, 28 tons allocated. Ethiopia, government authorized, implementation July 2025, gold reserves, 41 tons allocated. Uganda, central bank prepared. Implementation August 2025. Gold reserves, 19 tons allocated. Zambia, treasury ready. Implementation, September 2025. Gold reserves, 23 tons allocated. Botswana, cabinet approved. Implementation, gold reserves, 17 tons allocated. Mozambique, ministry finalized. Implementation, gold reserves, 14 tons allocated. Angola, president authorized. Implementation, gold reserves, 31 tons allocated. Namibia, parliament passed. Implementation, gold reserves, 21 tons allocated. Rwanda, government ready. Gold reserves, 16 tons allocated. Cameroon, legislation approved. Gold reserves, 24 tons allocated. Ivory Coast, central bank prepared. Gold reserves, 27 tons allocated. Democratic Republic of Congo, treasury finalized. Gold reserves, 38 tons allocated. South Africa, parliament considering. Gold reserves, 125 tons allocated. Nigeria, government studying. Implementation, July 2026. Gold reserves, 76 tons allocated. Algeria, cabinet reviewing gold standard implementation. Finance ministry conducting feasibility studies. Economic advisors calculating reserve requirements. Central bank preparing infrastructure modifications. Parliamentary committees examining legislation. Everything moving forward systematically. Gold reserves, 174 tons allocated. Seventh largest gold holder in Africa, substantial backing for national currency, significant contribution to continental system, implementation timeline, January 2026, 6 months from now. Irreversible commitment, absolute certainty. Morocco, Ministry preparing comprehensive transition plan, Royal Economic Council approving strategy, Central Bank restructuring monetary framework, financial institutions adapting systems, commercial banks updating protocols, everything coordinated nationally, gold reserves, 22 tons allocated, growing reserves through domestic mining, purchasing additional gold internationally, building backing continuously, implementation September 2026, 9 months away, definite timeline, guaranteed execution. Tunisia, Central Bank planning detailed conversion process, Monetary Policy Committee designing framework, Treasury Department calculating requirements, financial regulators preparing oversight mechanisms. Banking sector coordinating implementation. Everything planned meticulously. Gold reserves, 7 tons allocated. Smaller nation, proportional commitment, full participation. Implementation, October 2026, 10 months future, scheduled precisely, committed completely. I paused. Let those details sink in. 3 North African nations, major regional economies, all joining gold standard, all abandoning dollar, all rejecting IMF, continental expansion accelerating, regional transformation spreading, global shift intensifying. 18 nations total now, 7 initial members plus 11 new commitments. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Guinea, Chad, Gabon, Republic of Congo, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, Kenya, South Africa, Ghana, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, 18 nations, representing every African region, West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, Central Africa, North Africa, complete continental coverage, total regional representation, absolute geographic spread. I displayed the combined statistics, numbers that destroy IMF's African presence, figures that end dollar dominance continentally, data that proves transformation is real. 739 tons of gold backing these 18 currencies, combined from national reserves, pooled for collective strength, shared for mutual support. Current market value, $47 billion in reserves. Substantial backing, solid foundation, real wealth, not paper promises, not digital entries, not fiat declarations, actual gold, physical metal, tangible value, stored in African vaults, controlled by African central banks, owned by African nations, completely. I showed the total continental picture, including the original 7 nations, the complete transformation, the full revolution. 54 nations total across Africa, 7 already implemented gold standard fully, 18 committed to implementation within 12 months, 29 more nations examining feasibility, conducting studies, preparing plans, considering participation, continental momentum unstoppable, regional transformation inevitable, complete revolution approaching, 1,083 tons total gold backing from committed nations, combined reserves from 25 countries, collective wealth supporting continental system, current total value, $69 billion in reserves, massive continental backing, unprecedented regional coordination, historic monetary transformation. I let those numbers hang in the air. $69 billion in gold, real wealth, actual value, physical backing, not IMF's paper promises, not dollars fiat illusions, not Western financial manipulation, just gold, pure gold, African gold, supporting African currencies, backing African economies, securing African futures. This is continental transformation, not isolated experiment, not temporary measure, not reversible decision, permanent transformation, lasting change, irreversible revolution. This is monetary revolution, not reform, not adjustment, not modification, complete revolution, total transformation, absolute change. This is dollar collapse in Africa, not decline, not reduction, not weakening, complete collapse, total abandonment, absolute rejection. This is IMF irrelevance continentally, not reduced influence, not diminished power, not weakened control. Complete irrelevance, total obsolescence, absolute termination. Your IMF representative looked physically ill. I watched his face carefully, studied his reactions closely, observed his deterioration completely, pale, color draining from face, blood leaving skin, health visibly declining, sweating, forehead glistening, hands trembling, body reacting physically, trembling, slight shaking, visible quivering, control slipping away, seeing his institution's African presence evaporating, 70 years of IMF control ending, decades of influence terminating, generations of dominance collapsing, watching his organization's continental influence disappearing, programs being canceled, offices being closed, staff being expelled, everything dismantled, witnessing his system's regional control ending, monetary authority eliminated, financial oversight terminated, economic dominance destroyed, forever. This is why your IMF begs Africa to stop gold standard, not requests politely, not suggests diplomatically, not recommends professionally, begs desperately, pleads frantically, implores urgently, because you're losing everything, because your control is ending, because your power is collapsing. 25 nations representing 680 million people abandoning your currency, not reducing dollar usage, not limiting dollar transactions, not decreasing dollar dependency, abandoning completely, rejecting totally, eliminating absolutely. 680 million people, more than entire European Union population, more than double United States population, massive human population, enormous market, huge economy. I showed the demographic breakdown, numbers proving scale of transformation, figures demonstrating magnitude of change, data revealing enormity of revolution. Burkina Faso, 23 million people, Mali, 22 million, Niger, 26 million, Guinea, 14 million, Chad, 18 million, Gabon, 2 million, Republic of Congo, 6 million, Zimbabwe, 16 million, Zambia, 20 million, Tanzania, 65 million, Kenya, 54 million, South Africa, 60 million, Ghana, 33 million, Senegal, 18 million, Ivory Coast, 28 million, Algeria, 45 million, Morocco, 37 million, Tunisia, 12 million. Total, 680 million people, all abandoning dollar, all rejecting IMF, all embracing gold standard, simultaneously, permanently, absolutely. I revealed the economic scale, GDP figures showing financial impact, economic data proving monetary significance, statistics demonstrating commercial importance. 47% of African population rejecting your system, nearly half the continent, approaching majority, soon exceeding majority, as more nations join, as additional countries commit, as remaining nations decide, majority coming, inevitably, certainly, 53% of African GDP escaping your control, more than half continental economy, majority of regional commerce, bulk of African trade, $1.8 trillion in combined GDP, enormous economy, massive market, huge commercial power, all leaving dollar system, all abandoning IMF framework, all rejecting Western financial control. I displayed the trade statistics, import-export data showing commercial scale, transaction volumes proving economic significance, trade flows demonstrating financial importance. These 18 nations conduct $890 billion in annual trade among themselves, with other African countries, with Asian partners, with global South allies. All this trade converting to gold-backed currencies, all these transactions abandoning dollars, all this commerce rejecting IMF oversight, $890 billion annually. That's more than entire Australian GDP, more than total Mexican economy, more than complete Indonesian GDP, massive trade volume, enormous commercial flow, huge economic activity, all leaving dollar system, permanently. I showed the resource control, natural wealth backing these economies, mineral resources supporting these nations, commodity production powering these countries. These 18 nations control 67% of Africa's gold production, 54% of Africa's diamond output, 71% of Africa's copper reserves, 63% of Africa's cobalt deposits, 58% of Africa's uranium resources, 69% of Africa's chromium reserves, 61% of Africa's manganese deposits, 73% of Africa's platinum production. Everything the world needs, everything Western industries require, everything global technology demands, all controlled by gold standard nations, all priced in gold-backed currencies, all traded outside dollar system. Your representative tried to speak, opened mouth, attempted words, struggled to form sentences. I raised my hand, stopped him immediately, silenced him completely. I wasn't finished. Not nearly finished. Not even close to finished. Continental shift creating global implications, not just African change, not merely regional transformation, not simply local revolution, global implications, worldwide consequences, international ramifications. When half of Africa abandons dollar, global dollar demand decreases. When African trade stops using dollars, international dollar circulation drops. When African reserves convert to gold, worldwide dollar holdings decline. Measurable impact, quantifiable effect, calculable consequence. I revealed the global financial analysis, expert projections, economic modeling, financial forecasting, all showing same conclusion, same result, same outcome. International Monetary Fund's own economists calculated impact, confidential report, internal analysis, secret projection. I obtained copy, read everything, understood implications. Their conclusion: African gold standard adoption by 25 nations will reduce global dollar demand by 8-12%, will decrease international dollar reserves by $340.580 billion, will diminish dollar's share of global trade by 6 to 9%. Their numbers, their analysis, their conclusion. They know what's coming. They understand the impact. They fear the consequences. I showed their own internal documents, IMF secret analysis, their confidential projections, their private fears, all exposed, all revealed, all proven. Regional transformation threatening worldwide dominance, not just challenging, not merely questioning, not simply opposing, threatening, directly, immediately, seriously. Dollar dominance based on universal acceptance, based on mandatory usage, based on forced adoption. When major regions abandon dollar, dominance weakens. When significant populations reject dollar, hegemony cracks. When substantial economies eliminate dollar, supremacy collapses. Africa is major region. 680 million is significant population. $1.8 trillion is substantial economy. Our abandonment threatens everything. Our rejection endangers everything. Our elimination destroys everything. I displayed the cascade effect analysis. How African transformation triggers global change. How regional revolution spreads internationally. How continental shift creates worldwide movement. African revolution challenging international order, not accepting it, not working within it, not reforming it, challenging it, confronting it, opposing it, completely. We're not asking permission, not seeking approval, not requesting accommodation. We're establishing alternative. We're building replacement. We're creating new system, outside IMF control, beyond dollar dominance, without Western oversight, independent, sovereign, free. I continued destroying his arguments systematically, dismantling his logic completely, demolishing his position totally. Every claim, every argument, every assertion, all destroyed, all refuted, all demolished. You claim gold standard limits monetary flexibility. Wrong, completely wrong, fundamentally wrong, deliberately wrong. It limits your ability to manipulate our currencies. That's what you mean by flexibility. That's what you call monetary policy. That's what you term economic management, manipulation, control, exploitation. Gold standard prevents you from inflating away our savings, prevents you from devaluing our currencies, prevents you from stealing our wealth through monetary manipulation. That's why you oppose it. That's why you fight it. That's why you fear it. I showed the historical evidence, data proving IMF manipulation, records documenting currency devaluation, statistics revealing wealth extraction, all through monetary policy, all through exchange rate management, all through IMF programs. Between 1980 and 2020, African currencies under IMF programs lost average 340% of value against dollar. Deliberate devaluation, systematic impoverishment, planned theft. Ghanaian cedi, lost 98% of value. Nigerian naira, lost 97% of value. Zambian kwacha, lost 99.8% of value. Every IMF program, every structural adjustment, every economic reform, currency devaluation required, wealth extraction ensured, poverty guaranteed. You call this monetary flexibility, we call it monetary theft. You call this economic management, we call it economic colonialism. You call this policy adjustment, we call it policy crime. I revealed the mechanism, how IMF programs destroy currency value, how structural adjustments impoverish nations, how economic reforms extract wealth, systematically, deliberately, continuously. IMF program requires currency devaluation, makes exports cheaper, makes imports expensive, transfers wealth from African consumers to Western buyers. African workers produce goods cheaply. Western consumers buy goods cheaply. African nations lose value. Western nations gain value. Systematic extraction, continuous theft, permanent impoverishment. Gold standard prevents this. Fixes currency value, protects purchasing power, preserves national wealth. That's why you oppose it. That's the real reason. That's the only reason. You claim gold standard restricts economic growth. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Provably wrong. Historically wrong. It restricts your ability to extract our wealth. That's what you mean by growth. That's what you measure as development. That's what you calculate as progress. Your growth. Your development. Your progress. Not ours. Never ours. Never African growth. Never African development. Never African progress. Just extraction. Just exploitation. Just theft. I displayed the economic data, real growth statistics, actual development figures, genuine progress measurements, all showing truth, all proving reality, all exposing lies, not selective data. Not cherry-picked statistics, not manipulated figures, complete data, comprehensive statistics, total figures, from World Bank's own databases, from IMF's own reports, from their own publications, their numbers, their data, their evidence, proving their failure, documenting their crimes, exposing their lies. Under IMF programs, African economies grew average 2.1% annually between 1980 to 2020. 40 years of IMF control, 4 decades of structural adjustment, generations of economic programs. Result, 2.1% average growth, pathetic growth, minimal expansion, negligible development. Population grew 2.8% annually same period, faster than economic growth, outpacing GDP expansion, exceeding economic development. Simple mathematics reveals truth. Simple calculation exposes reality. Simple arithmetic proves failure. I showed the calculation clearly, made the mathematics obvious, demonstrated the reality undeniably. GDP growth, 2.1% annually. Population growth, 2.8% annually. Difference, negative 0.7% annually. Negative per capita growth. Declining individual income. Falling living standards. Every single year, for 40 years, continuously. Systematically, deliberately. Per capita income declined, not stagnated, not remained stable, declined, fell, decreased, year after year, decade after decade, generation after generation. Average African poorer in 2020 than in 1980. 40 years of IMF programs. 40 years of structural adjustment. 40 years of economic reform. Result, increased poverty, greater hardship, deeper suffering. Living standards fell, not remained constant, not improved slowly, fell, dropped, collapsed. Housing quality declined. Food security worsened. Healthcare access diminished. Education quality deteriorated. Infrastructure crumbled, services disappeared, everything worse, everything declined, everything failed. I displayed specific country examples, real nations, actual data, concrete evidence. Zambia under IMF programs 1980 to 2020, GDP growth 1.8% average annually, population growth 2.9% average annually, per capita income declined 1.1% annually. 40 years of decline, continuous impoverishment, systematic poverty creation, Ghana under IMF programs 1,983 to 2020, GDP growth 2.3% average annually, population growth 2.6% average annually, per capita income declined 0.3% annually, decades of stagnation, generations of poverty, continuous suffering. Kenya under IMF programs 1,980 to 2020, GDP growth 2% average annually, population growth 2.7% average annually, per capita income declined 0.7% annually, 40 years of failure, 4 decades of decline, generations of impoverishment. Poverty increased, not decreased, not remained stable, increased, grew, expanded. Extreme poverty rates in sub-Saharan Africa, 1,980, 42% of population. Extreme poverty rates 2020, 41% of population. 40 years, minimal change, negligible improvement, virtual stagnation, but population increased dramatically. 1,980 population, 380 million. 2020 population, 1.1 billion. Absolute number in extreme poverty, 1,980, 160 million people. Absolute number in extreme poverty, 2020, 450 million people. More than doubled, nearly tripled. Catastrophic failure. I let those numbers sink in. Let the reality penetrate. Let the truth register. 450 million Africans in extreme poverty. After 40 years of IMF programs, after 4 decades of structural adjustment, after generations of economic reform, not improvement, not development, not progress, just poverty, just suffering, just failure, systematic failure, deliberate failure, criminal failure. You call this growth. We call this decline. You measure GDP. We measure lives. You count percentages. We count people. You celebrate 2.1% growth. We mourn 450 million in poverty. You claim success. We see failure. You declare progress. We experience regression. You announce development. We suffer impoverishment. Different perspectives, different measurements, different realities. Your reality, statistical growth. Our reality, human suffering. Your success, economic indicators. Our failure, lived experience. Your progress, paper reports. Our regression, daily hardship. You call this development. We call this impoverishment. You define development as GDP growth. We define development as human welfare. You measure development through economic statistics. We measure development through living standards. You celebrate development when exports increase. We measure development when poverty decreases. You announce development when debt is serviced. We experience development when children are fed. Different definitions, different measurements, different standards. Your development, economic extraction, our impoverishment, resource depletion. Your growth, wealth transfer, our decline, value loss. Your progress, statistical manipulation, our suffering, real consequences. You call this progress. We call this regression. You define progress as structural reform completion. We define progress as human advancement. You measure progress through policy implementation. We measure progress through quality of life. You celebrate progress when privatization succeeds. We measure progress when employment increases. You announce progress when markets liberalize. We experience progress when wages rise. Different concepts, different values, different priorities. Your progress, system compliance, our regression, social destruction, your advancement, market domination, our decline, economic sovereignty loss, your success, control maintenance, our failure, independence surrender. I showed what IMF programs actually accomplished, real results, actual outcomes, genuine consequences, not claimed benefits, not promised improvements, not projected gains, real results, documented outcomes, proven consequences. Your programs don't create growth. They extract wealth, not development, extraction, not progress, theft, not improvement, robbery, systematic extraction, continuous theft, permanent robbery, through debt service, through resource exports, through trade imbalances, through currency manipulation, through privatization, through liberalization, every mechanism extracting, every policy stealing, every program robbing. They don't generate development, they facilitate exploitation, not capacity building, exploitation, not infrastructure creation, extraction, not human development, impoverishment, systematic exploitation, continuous extraction, permanent impoverishment, through low commodity prices, through unfair trade terms, through debt obligations, through structural conditions, through policy requirements, through economic restructuring, every program facilitating, every policy enabling, every condition ensuring. They don't enable progress, they ensure poverty, not advancement. Poverty, not improvement. Suffering, not development. Decline, guaranteed poverty. Systematic suffering, permanent decline. Through wage suppression, through social spending cuts, through safety net elimination, through public service reduction, through welfare program termination, through healthcare privatization, every policy ensuring, every program guaranteeing, every condition creating, poverty, suffering, decline, deliberately, systematically, permanently. I showed the gold standard alternative, nations that maintained gold backing, economies that preserved monetary discipline, countries that protected currency value, all achieved real growth. All experienced actual development, all enjoyed genuine progress, not theoretical examples, not hypothetical cases, not imagined scenarios, real nations, actual economies, historical evidence, documented success, proven prosperity, verified development. Switzerland maintained gold standard until 1999, longest gold standard maintenance in modern era, most consistent monetary discipline globally, strictest currency protection internationally. What happened? Became richest country in Europe, not one of richest, the richest, highest GDP per capita, highest income levels, highest wealth accumulation, highest per capita income globally. Not just Europe, globally, worldwide, internationally, $93,000 per capita, 1,999, compared to European average $28,000, compared to global average $8,000, more than triple European levels, more than 10 times global average, extraordinary prosperity, exceptional wealth, unprecedented success. Most stable economy internationally, not just stable, most stable, lowest inflation rates, minimal price volatility, consistent value preservation, average inflation 1,950 to 1,999, 2.1% annually, compared to European average 4.8%, compared to global average 7.2%, less than half European inflation, less than one-third global inflation, remarkable stability, exceptional consistency, unprecedented reliability, strongest currency globally, Swiss franc most trusted, most stable, most valuable. Gold backing created that. Gold discipline maintained that. Gold standard delivered that. I showed the mechanism, how gold standard created Swiss prosperity, how monetary discipline enabled Swiss development, how currency stability delivered Swiss success, not magic, not luck, not accident. System, discipline, policy, deliberate system, consistent discipline, sound policy. Gold didn't restrict growth. Gold enabled growth, real growth, not statistical manipulation, not paper growth, not artificial expansion, real growth, genuine expansion. Actual development, sustainable growth, not boom-bust cycles, not bubble economics, not crisis-prone expansion, sustainable growth, lasting development, permanent prosperity. Beneficial growth, not wealth extraction, not inequality creation, not poverty generation, beneficial growth, shared prosperity, broad development, for everyone, for all citizens, for whole nation. Switzerland's growth mechanism clear. Gold standard prevented inflation, stable prices enabled planning, long-term investment became viable, businesses could project costs, families could save effectively, investors could calculate returns, certainty, predictability, stability. Gold standard prevented currency manipulation, exchange rate remained stable, trade became predictable, exports remained competitive, imports stayed affordable, economic planning became possible, consistency, reliability, trustworthiness. Gold standard prevented government excess. Spending required real resources. Borrowing faced real limits. Policy maintained discipline. Fiscal responsibility enforced. monetary stability guaranteed. Discipline, restraint, responsibility. Singapore maintained currency discipline, strict monetary policy, conservative financial management, rigorous economic oversight, not gold standard technically, but gold standard principles. Same discipline, same restraint, same responsibility, currency board system, every Singapore dollar backed by foreign reserves, every unit of currency supported by real assets, every monetary expansion requiring real wealth, discipline, stability, responsibility. What happened? Became richest nation in Asia. Not one of richest, the richest. Highest GDP per capita, highest income levels, highest wealth accumulation. I displayed Singapore's transformation, from poverty to prosperity, from underdevelopment to advancement, from third world to first world, all through monetary discipline, all through financial responsibility, all through economic stability. 1,965 Singapore independence, GDP per capita $516, extreme poverty, widespread unemployment, minimal development, poor nation, underdeveloped economy, third world country. 2020 Singapore, GDP per capita $59,798, extraordinary wealth, full employment, advanced development, rich nation, developed economy, first world country, 116 times increase, over 1 century of growth compressed into 55 years, fastest development in human history, most successful transformation ever recorded, unprecedented advancement globally, highest living standards regionally, not just high, highest, best healthcare in Asia, best education in region, best infrastructure continentally, world-class hospitals, world-renowned universities, world-leading infrastructure, everything excellent, everything advanced, everything first class, most developed economy continentally, not just developed, most advanced technology, most sophisticated finance, most efficient systems, everything optimized, everything modernized, everything perfected. I showed the causation clearly, demonstrated the connection obviously, proved the relationship undeniably. Monetary discipline created stability. Stability enabled investment. Investment generated growth. Growth produced prosperity. Prosperity delivered development. Development created advancement. Clear causation. Obvious connection. Proven relationship. Monetary discipline didn't restrict growth. Monetary discipline enabled growth, not prevented, enabled, not limited, facilitated, not constrained, empowered, actual growth. Not artificial expansion, not bubble economy, not unsustainable boom, actual growth, real expansion, genuine development, lasting growth, not temporary surge, not short-term spike. Not brief boom, lasting growth, permanent expansion, sustained development, meaningful growth, not statistical artifact, not paper prosperity, not hollow achievement, meaningful growth. Real prosperity, genuine achievement. You claim gold standard causes financial instability. Wrong, deliberately wrong, maliciously wrong, criminally wrong, not mistaken, not confused, not misinformed, wrong. Deliberately, maliciously, criminally, it causes instability for your exploitative system. That's the truth. That's the reality. That's the fact. That's what you mean by financial stability. Not real stability. Not genuine security. Not actual safety. Your stability. Your security. Your safety. Your ability to exploit. Your power to extract. Your capacity to steal. That's what you call economic security, not our security, not African security, not people's security, your security, system security, exploitation security, your ability to control, your power to manipulate, your capacity to dominate. That's what you term monetary safety, not currency safety, not value safety, not wealth safety, your safety, control safety, dominance safety, your ability to inflate, your power to devalue, your capacity to steal through monetary manipulation. I revealed the truth systematically, exposed the lies completely, demonstrated the reality totally. Gold standard threatens their control, challenges their power, destroys their dominance. That's why they oppose it. That's why they fight it. That's why they lie about it. Not economic reasons, not technical concerns, not financial worries, control reasons. Power concerns, dominance worries. Gold standard threatens that, prevents currency manipulation, stops inflation theft, blocks devaluation robbery, eliminates their primary control mechanism, destroys their main exploitation tool, removes their key theft instrument. Gold standard challenges that, questions their authority, disputes their power, contests their control, makes them justify policies, makes them explain decisions, makes them defend actions, accountability, transparency, responsibility. Gold standard destroys that, ends their monetary monopoly, terminates their currency control, eliminates their financial dominance completely, permanently, absolutely. That's why you oppose it, not economic reasons, control reasons, not technical concerns, power concerns, not financial worries, dominance worries. You need currency manipulation for exploitation, for extraction, for theft. You need inflation for debt reduction, for value theft, for wealth transfer. You need devaluation for export advantage, for import exploitation, for trade manipulation. Gold standard prevents all that, blocks all manipulation, stops all theft completely. That's why you fight it, not protecting economies, protecting exploitation, not defending stability, defending control, not ensuring security, ensuring dominance. You fight desperately. You fight viciously. You fight continuously. Because gold standard threatens everything, challenges everything, destroys everything. Your power, your control, your dominance, everything. That's why you lie about it. Not honest disagreement, deliberate deception, not technical debate, malicious falsehood, not economic discussion, criminal fraud. You lie systematically. You lie continuously. You lie shamelessly about gold standard, about monetary discipline, about currency stability, everything. I revealed the real instability, financial crises under IMF system, economic collapses during IMF programs, monetary disasters from IMF policies, all documented, all verified, all proven, not theoretical, not hypothetical, not imagined, real crises, actual collapses, historical disasters, documented completely, verified thoroughly, proven absolutely. 1997 Asian financial crisis. IMF programs deepened crisis. Not helped, deepened, not ameliorated, worsened, not resolved, intensified. Thailand requested IMF assistance. IMF imposed harsh conditions, austerity measures, interest rate increases, government spending cuts, social program eliminations. Result: crisis deepened, recession worsened. Unemployment exploded, GDP contracted 10.8%, worst recession in Thai history, worst economic crisis in Southeast Asia. IMF created disaster, made recession worse, not better, worse, not improved, deteriorated, not recovered, collapsed. Indonesia implemented IMF program, followed every condition, accepted every requirement, implemented every policy. Result: economic catastrophe. GDP contracted 13.1%, currency collapsed 80%, unemployment reached 40%, poverty doubled. Worst economic crisis in Indonesian history. IMF created catastrophe. South Korea accepted IMF program, strictest implementation, fastest reforms, most compliant execution. Result: deep recession. GDP contracted 5.8%, unemployment tripled, poverty increased dramatically. Worst crisis in Korean history. IMF created recession. Increased unemployment, massively, dramatically, catastrophically. Thailand unemployment rose from 2.9% to 5.3%. 800,000 jobs lost. 800,000 families destroyed. 800,000 lives ruined. Indonesia unemployment rose from 4.7% to 20.1%. 20 million jobs lost. 20 million families destroyed, 20 million lives ruined. South Korea unemployment rose from 2.6% to 8.7%, 1.8 million jobs lost, 1.8 million families destroyed, 1.8 million lives ruined. Total: 22.6 million jobs lost, 22.6 million families destroyed, 22.6 million lives ruined. IMF programs, IMF policies, IMF destruction. Destroyed economies, not recovered, destroyed, not stabilized, demolished, not improved, annihilated. Thailand economy, required decade to recover. 10 years to return to pre-crisis levels. 10 years of lost development. Indonesia economy, required 15 years to recover. 15 years to restore pre-crisis GDP. 15 years of lost progress. South Korea economy, required 8 years to recover. 8 years to rebuild. 8 years of lost advancement. Combined, 33 years of lost development, 3 decades of wasted potential, generation of destroyed progress, IMF responsibility, IMF fault, IMF crime. 2008 global financial crisis. IMF policies contributed to crisis, not prevented, contributed, not warned, enabled, not protected, facilitated, failed to prevent disaster. Completely, totally, absolutely. IMF had all data, monitored all economies, assessed all risks, saw housing bubble, observed derivative expansion, noticed systemic risks, did nothing, said nothing, warned nobody. Crisis exploded, global economy collapsed, worst recession since Great Depression, IMF failure, complete failure, criminal failure. Couldn't manage consequences at all, whatsoever, remotely. Global GDP contracted 1.7%. First global contraction since 1945. Unprecedented modern crisis. 75 million jobs lost globally. 75 million families destroyed. 75 million lives ruined. 120 million people pushed into poverty. 120 million suffering increased. 120 million futures destroyed. $22 trillion in wealth destroyed. $22 trillion vanished. $22 trillion stolen by financial crisis. IMF couldn't prevent. IMF couldn't manage. IMF couldn't resolve. Complete failure, total incompetence, absolute disaster. 2010 European debt crisis. IMF programs failed completely, not partially, completely, not somewhat, totally, not mostly, absolutely. Greece implemented strictest IMF program ever. Harshest austerity. Deepest cuts, most severe reforms. Result, economic catastrophe. GDP contracted 26%. Unemployment reached 28%. Youth unemployment hit 60%. Poverty exploded. Homelessness skyrocketed. Suicide rates tripled. Worst economic disaster in Greek peacetime history. IMF created catastrophe. Didn't restore growth at all. Ever. Remotely. Greece. 8 years of continuous contraction, 8 years of economic decline, 8 years of deepening recession. GDP fell every single year, employment dropped every single year, living standards collapsed every single year, no growth, no recovery, no improvement, just decline, just contraction, just suffering. Portugal, 6 years of recession, 6 years of contraction, 6 years of decline, same pattern, same policies, same disaster. Spain, 5 years of recession, 5 years of contraction, 5 years of suffering, same IMF program, same catastrophic results, same criminal failure. Didn't reduce debt, opposite happened, debt increased. Greece debt to GDP 2010, 146%. Greece debt to GDP 2015, 177%. Increased 31 percentage points after 5 years of harsh austerity. After 5 years of IMF programs, after 5 years of suffering, debt grew, not decreased, grew. Portugal debt to GDP 2010, 96%. Portugal debt to GDP 2015, 129%. Increased 33 percentage points. Same pattern, same failure. Same disaster. Spain debt to GDP 2010, 61%. Spain debt to GDP 2015, 99%, increased 38 percentage points, everywhere same. Everywhere failure, everywhere disaster. Didn't solve problems, created new problems, worse problems, permanent problems, social problems, political problems, human problems. Greece, lost generation. Youth unemployment 60%, millions emigrated, millions gave up, millions destroyed, brain drain, talent exodus, future stolen, political extremism, social unrest, democratic crisis, trust destroyed, institutions weakened, society fractured. Portugal, similar pattern, similar suffering, similar destruction. Spain, same disaster. Same consequences, same crimes, IMF responsibility, IMF failure, IMF guilt. Every major financial crisis of past 50 years, IMF involved. Not coincidence, pattern, not accident, system, not bad luck, design, IMF policies implicated, directly. Obviously, undeniably, IMF created conditions, IMF ignored warnings, IMF worsened outcomes. Every crisis, every collapse, every disaster, IMF fingerprints everywhere. IMF responsibility obvious. IMF guilt proven. IMF programs failed, completely, totally, catastrophically, not once, not twice, every time, always, consistently. Systematically. You call gold standard unstable. Your system creates instability, not prevents, creates, not reduces, generates, not eliminates, guarantees, continuous instability, not occasional, continuous, not rare, constant, not exceptional, normal, crisis after crisis, collapse after collapse, disaster after disaster, 1997, crisis, 2008 crisis, 2010 crisis, pattern obvious, system failing, design flawed, permanent instability, not temporary, permanent, not fixable, inherent, not accidental, intentional, boom-bust cycles, bubble economics, crisis-prone system, by design, deliberately, systematically, catastrophic instability, not minor, catastrophic, not manageable, devastating, not acceptable, criminal, millions unemployed, millions impoverished, millions destroyed. Every crisis, every collapse, every disaster, human cost enormous, social cost tremendous, economic cost catastrophic, your system, your policies, your responsibility, your guilt, your crime. I showed the gold standard stability, historical evidence, economic data, financial records, all proving gold backing creates stability, maintains value, preserves wealth, consistently, reliably, permanently, not theory, not hypothesis, not speculation, history, evidence, proof, documented, verified, proven. Under classical gold standard 1880 to 1914, no major financial crises, none, zero, not one, 34 years, complete stability, total security, absolute safety. No banking collapses, not one major bank failure, not one systemic crisis, not one financial panic, complete banking stability, total financial security, absolute monetary safety, not one monetary panic, every currency stable, every exchange rate fixed, every value preserved, longest period of monetary stability in modern history, not just stable, not just secure, most secure, not just safe, safest, 34 consecutive years. No interruption, no crisis, no disaster, never before, never since, unprecedented then, unmatched now, historical fact, greatest era of economic growth globally, not just growth, greatest growth, not just prosperity, greatest prosperity, not just development, greatest development, average global growth 3.5% annually, higher than any period before, higher than most periods since, sustained growth, real growth, beneficial growth, most prosperous period internationally, not just prosperous, most prosperous, not just wealthy, most wealthy, not just successful, most successful, living standards rose continuously, real wages increased steadily, poverty declined consistently, everywhere, every country, every economy, under gold standard, because of gold standard, through gold standard, gold created that. Not accident, not coincidence, not luck, gold, monetary discipline, currency stability. Gold enabled that, provided foundation, created conditions, ensured stability, stable prices, predictable values, reliable currency, businesses planned, families saved, investors committed, confidence, trust, security. Gold maintained that for 34 years, without interruption, without crisis, without disaster, consistently, reliably, permanently. System worked, discipline succeeded. Stability delivered, proven, documented, verified. Under Bretton Woods' partial gold standard, 1944 to 1971, rapid post-war recovery, fastest recovery in history. Most complete reconstruction ever, most successful rebuilding globally. Europe destroyed 1945, Europe prosperous 1960, 15 years, complete transformation, total recovery. Unprecedented success. Japan destroyed 1945, Japan economic powerhouse 1970, 25 years, complete transformation, miracle economy, unprecedented development. Germany devastated 1945, Germany leading economy 1965, 20 years, complete recovery, economic miracle, unmatched success, all under Bretton Woods, all under partial gold standard, all through monetary discipline. Gold backing enabled recovery, currency stability facilitated investment, monetary discipline ensured growth, proven, documented, historical fact. Sustained global growth, not temporary, sustained, not brief, lasting, not interrupted, continuous, 27 years. Average global growth, 4.9% annually. Highest sustained growth in modern history, never before achieved, never since matched, unprecedented prosperity, Bretton Woods era, gold standard era, monetary discipline era. Stable international trade, not volatile, stable, not unpredictable, reliable, not chaotic, orderly, fixed exchange rates, predictable values, consistent prices, trade flourished. Investment grew, prosperity spread, globally, universally, completely. Most successful monetary system in 20th century, not just successful, most successful, not just stable, most stable, not just prosperous, most prosperous, every measure, every metric, every indicator, best performance, greatest success, highest achievement. Gold backing created stability, prevented inflation, maintained value, protected wealth, ensured confidence. Gold discipline enabled growth, encouraged investment, facilitated trade, supported development, delivered prosperity. Gold standard delivered prosperity, real prosperity, lasting prosperity, shared prosperity, for everyone, for all nations, for whole world. Every claim you make serves your interests, not African interests, never African interests, never our welfare, not our development, never our development, never our advancement, not our prosperity, never our prosperity, never our success. Your interests, always your interests, only your interests, your control, your power, your dominance, your power, your authority, your supremacy, your exploitation, your extraction, your theft. Every argument you present protects your power, not international law. International law means nothing to you. You violate it constantly. You ignore it routinely. You dismiss it casually. Not economic principles. Economic principles mean nothing to you. You contradict them regularly. You abuse them systematically. You pervert them deliberately. Not financial stability. Financial stability means nothing to you. You create instability constantly. You cause crises regularly. You generate disasters systematically. Your power, that's all you protect. That's all you defend. That's all you care about. Your dominance, your control, your supremacy, your exploitation, your extraction, your theft. Every warning you issue defends your control, not African welfare. African welfare means nothing to you. You destroy it constantly. You undermine it systematically. You eliminate it deliberately. Not our growth. Our growth means nothing to you. You prevent it regularly. You block it systematically. You sabotage it deliberately. Not our future. Our future means nothing to you. You steal it constantly. You destroy it systematically. You eliminate it deliberately. Your control. That's all you defend. That's all you protect. That's all you maintain. Your system. Your framework. Your structure. Your theft. Your exploitation. Your extraction. We see through everything. Every lie, not fooled, not deceived, not misled. We see truth. We understand reality. We recognize facts. Every deception, not confused, not uncertain, not doubtful. We know your methods. We understand your tactics. We recognize your strategies. Every manipulation, not influenced, not swayed, not convinced. We resist your pressure. We reject your arguments. We oppose your control. Everything. We understand your motives perfectly, not partially, perfectly, not somewhat, completely, not mostly, absolutely. Your motives are exploitation. Your goals are extraction. Your purpose is theft. Clear, obvious, undeniable. Completely. Every aspect, every dimension, every detail. We understand your system, how it works, how it exploits, how it steals. We understand your methods, how you manipulate, how you control, how you dominate. We understand your goals, what you want, what you take, what you steal, everything. Absolutely. Every single thing, every mechanism, every process, every procedure. We studied everything. We analyzed everything. We understood everything, completely, thoroughly. Absolutely. We reject your system, totally, not partially, totally, not somewhat, completely, not mostly, absolutely, every aspect, every element, every component. Your monetary system, rejected. Your financial framework, rejected. Your economic structure, rejected. Your debt system, rejected. Your loan programs, rejected. Your policy requirements, rejected. Everything, permanently, not temporarily, permanently, not provisionally, definitively, not conditionally, absolutely, forever, finally, irreversibly, never again, never returning, never accepting, your control, ended, your power, terminated, your dominance, destroyed, completely, permanently, absolutely, forever. Unified monetary strategy, not competing policies, not conflicting approaches, not divergent strategies, not inconsistent frameworks, not contradictory methods, not opposing systems. Unified strategy, single approach, common framework, consistent policy, harmonized method, integrated system, all nations following same principles, same monetary principles, same economic principles, same financial principles, all countries implementing same standards, same reserve standards, same backing standards, same stability standards, all governments maintaining same discipline, same fiscal discipline, same monetary discipline, same economic discipline, coordinated completely, aligned totally, unified absolutely, perfect coordination, total alignment, complete unity. Continental Gold Reserve Pooling System operational, not planned. I revealed how the pooling system works, technical details, operational procedures, practical mechanisms, all functioning, all effective, all successful. Combined reserves available for currency stabilization, any member nation facing currency pressure, any participating country experiencing speculation, any gold standard economy under attack, can access combined reserves, can utilize collective gold, can deploy pooled resources for defense, for stabilization, for protection, collective backing strengthening individual currencies. Small nations gain strength from large reserves. Vulnerable economies gain protection from combined resources. Every participant gains security from collective commitment. Shared resources protecting all participants. Nobody fights alone. Nobody defends alone. Nobody stands alone. Continental unity, regional solidarity, collective security. I showed specific examples, hypothetical scenarios, practical applications, real situations, all demonstrating system effectiveness, all proving framework success, all validating approach correctness. Suppose currency speculators attack Burkina Faso's gold-backed CFA, try to break our currency, try to force devaluation, try to destroy our monetary independence. Under old system, we fight alone, deplete our reserves, possibly fail. Under new system, alliance responds collectively. All 18 nations deploy resources, combined 1,083 tons of gold available, $69 billion in backing. Speculators cannot win, attack cannot succeed, currency remains stable, guaranteed. Suppose international pressure targets Ghana's gold cedi, economic sanctions, trade restrictions, Financial isolation. Attempting to force abandonment of gold standard. Under old system, Ghana stands alone, faces pressure alone, possibly surrenders. Under new system, continental response immediate, all participating nations support Ghana. Trade redirected through alliance members, financial systems interconnected, economic cooperation intensified, pressure fails, sanctions ineffective, Ghana maintains gold standard, guaranteed. Gold-backed trade settlement system functioning, not theoretical, not experimental, not testing, functioning, operating, working, successfully. Direct gold transfers between central banks, no intermediaries, no third parties, no external involvement, just African central banks, just continental institutions, just our system. No dollar intermediation required, no conversion to dollars, no dollar transactions, no dollar involvement, direct gold settlement, immediate finality, complete independence. I revealed the technical infrastructure, electronic systems, digital platforms, secure networks, all operational, all functioning, all successful. No IMF oversight needed, no permission required, no approval necessary, no reporting obligations, no compliance requirements, no external supervision, complete independence, total sovereignty, absolute freedom, bilateral and multilateral gold transactions, 2 nations trading, 3 nations cooperating, multiple countries coordinating, every configuration possible, every arrangement permitted, every structure supported, flexibility, adaptability, functionality, regional trade using gold-backed currencies exclusively, West African trade, East African commerce, Southern African transactions, all using gold-backed currencies, all abandoning dollars, all rejecting IMF, completely, intra-alliance trade volume, $340 billion annually, all converting to gold settlement, all eliminating dollar usage, all establishing independence. Continental commerce abandoning dollars completely, not reducing, not limiting, not decreasing, abandoning, eliminating, rejecting, totally, permanently, finally. Pan-African payment infrastructure operational, not planned for future, not scheduled for implementation, not proposed for consideration, operational, now, today, currently. Electronic gold-backed currency transfers, digital transactions, instant processing, secure systems, bank-to-bank transfers, business-to-business payments, government-to-government transactions, everything electronic, everything instant, everything secure, instant settlement, no delays, no processing time, no waiting periods, immediate finality, complete transaction, instant confirmation, $0 involvement, no dollar conversion, no dollar intermediation, no dollar contamination, pure gold settlement. Clean transactions, independent system. Complete independence from Western financial system, not partial independence, not relative autonomy, not limited sovereignty, complete independence, total autonomy, absolute sovereignty. No SWIFT involvement, no Western clearing, no external control, our system, our infrastructure, our sovereignty forever. African Gold Reserve Bank being established, not proposed, not planned, not considered, being established, under construction, becoming reality, $12 billion capitalization, contributed by member nations, pooled from national resources, invested for continental benefit, substantial capital, solid foundation, strong institution, headquarters in Accra, Ghana, West African location, central position, strategic placement, operations beginning July 2025, 7 months from now, definite timeline, certain launch, guaranteed implementation. I showed the bank's structure, organizational design, governance framework, operational model, all African, all independent, all sovereign, continental institution managing collective reserves, not IMF, not World Bank, not Western institution, African institution, continental organization, our bank, managing our gold, protecting our reserves, serving our interests, African-controlled organizations serving African interests, not serving Western interests, not protecting dollar system, not maintaining IMF control, serving Africa, protecting Africans, benefiting African nations, exclusively. Independent entity operating outside IMF framework, Completely outside, totally separate, absolutely independent, no IMF oversight, no World Bank supervision, no Western control, no external interference, no foreign manipulation, pure African institution, complete continental control, total regional sovereignty. This is permanent infrastructure, not temporary arrangement. Not provisional measure, not interim solution, permanent infrastructure, lasting institution, irreversible establishment. This is lasting institution, not experiment, not trial, not test. Lasting institution, permanent organization, continuous operation, forever. This is irreversible transformation. Cannot be undone, cannot be reversed, cannot be stopped, irreversible, permanent, final. African monetary sovereignty established, continental financial independence achieved. Regional economic freedom secured, forever. Your representative tried one final argument. Last desperate attempt, final futile effort, ultimate hopeless plea, voice shaking, hands trembling, face pale. President Traoré, this will trigger Western sanctions, economic isolation, financial penalties, trade restrictions. You must reconsider, you must negotiate, you must compromise. I leaned back in my chair, slowly, deliberately, confidently, smiled, not nervous smile, not uncertain smile, not worried smile, confident smile, victorious smile, knowing smile, because I had prepared for this argument, because I had anticipated this threat, because I had answers for everything. Sanction us? With what leverage? You have no leverage, you have no power, you have no control. We have the gold, real wealth, actual value, physical assets. We have the resources. Natural wealth, mineral deposits, commodity production. We have the commodities. Everything you need, everything you require, everything you depend on. You need our cobalt for your batteries. Electric vehicles require cobalt. Battery production demands cobalt. Green technology needs cobalt. We produce 70% of global cobalt. You need us. We don't need you. I detailed every resource, every commodity, every material, Western dependency on African production, complete dependency, total reliance, absolute need. You need our coltan for your electronics. Every smartphone contains coltan. Every computer requires coltan. Every electronic device needs coltan. We produce 60% of global coltan. You need us. We don't need you. You need our uranium for your reactors. Nuclear power requires uranium. Energy security demands uranium. Climate goals need uranium. We control 18% of global uranium. You need us. We don't need you. You need our oil for your energy. Industries run on oil. Transportation requires oil. Economy depends on oil. We produce 12% of global oil. You need us. We don't need you. You need our copper for your infrastructure. Electrical systems require copper. Construction demands copper. Infrastructure needs copper. We produce 8% of global copper. You need us. We don't need you. You need our lithium for your technology. Battery technology requires lithium. Electric vehicles demand lithium. Energy storage needs lithium. We control 6% of global lithium. You need us. We don't need you. You need our chromium for your steel. Stainless steel requires chromium. Industrial production demands chromium. Manufacturing needs chromium. We produce 40% of global chromium. You need us. We don't need you. You need our manganese for your alloys. Steel production requires manganese. Metallurgy demands manganese. Industry needs manganese. We produce 37% of global manganese. You need us. We don't need you. You need our platinum for your catalysts. Catalytic converters require platinum. Chemical industry demands platinum. Industrial processes need platinum. We produce 80% of global platinum. You need us. We don't need you. You need our diamonds for your industries. Industrial diamonds for cutting. Manufacturing diamonds for drilling. Technology diamonds for semiconductors. We produce 60% of global diamonds. You need us. We don't need you. You need everything we produce. Every resource, every commodity, every material, everything. We don't need your dollars, paper currency, fiat money, worthless promises. We don't need your loans, debt traps, financial chains, economic slavery. We don't need your system, exploitative framework, theft mechanism, colonial structure. You need us. We don't need you. Simple reality, clear truth, obvious fact. I leaned forward, looked directly at him, made my final point, delivered my ultimate argument. Stated my absolute truth. Sanction us and watch your industries collapse. No cobalt means no electric vehicles. No coltan means no electronics. No uranium means no nuclear power. No copper means no infrastructure. No lithium means no batteries. No chromium means no stainless steel. No manganese means no steel alloys. No platinum means no catalytic converters. No diamonds means no industrial cutting. Everything stops. Everything fails. Everything collapses. Your industries, your technology, your economy, everything. Restrict our trade and watch your supply chains break. No African exports means empty factories. No African resources means halted production. No African commodities means failed industries. Supply chains break, production stops, economy crashes, immediately, completely, catastrophically. Penalize us financially and watch your economies crash. No African markets means lost sales. No African consumers means reduced profits. No African growth means diminished opportunities. Your economies suffer, your corporations lose, your wealth declines, significantly, substantially, seriously. I delivered the final verdict, the ultimate conclusion, the absolute truth. You have no leverage, nothing, zero, none. You have no power, no control, no dominance, no authority. You have no control, no influence, no command, no supremacy. Game over, finished, done, ended. We won, you lost. Africa is free, finally, permanently, absolutely, forever.